Back in the Middle Ages, there was no law keepers, and so justice was a community job, and this gave rise to some of the most brutal punishments used in the medieval Europe. Hanging. Hanging was a popular method of execution throughout medieval Europe. The criminal was suspended from a gallows or a sturdy structure by a rope tied around their neck. The weight of their body and gravity would cause the rope to constrict the airway, leading to death by asphyxiation. Public hangings were commonly organized, drawing large crowds to witness the spectacle. The purpose of public hangings extended beyond mere punishment. They served as a powerful deterrent to potential criminals. By making the execution a public event, authorities aimed to instill fear and discourage others from engaging in similar criminal acts. The sight of a lifeless body swinging from a noose was intended to create a chilling effect on the onlookers, reminding them of the consequences of transgressing societal norms and laws. Public hangings were often carried out in prominent locations such as town squares or designated execution sites. The condemned individual would be paraded through the streets, heightening the spectacle and ensuring maximum visibility. This public display of justice aimed to reinforce the authority and power of the ruling elite, sending a clear message that the punishment for crimes would be swift and severe. In addition to its deterrent effect, hanging was considered a straightforward and efficient method of execution. It didn't require elaborate mechanisms or preparations, making it a practical choice for authorities. However, it wasn't without its flaws. Improper calculations of the drop length or incorrect positioning of the noose could result in prolonged suffering for the condemned, prolonging their agony and undermining the intended quick and relatively painless death. Drawing and quartering. Drawing and quartering was indeed one of the most brutal and gruesome punishments meant for criminals of high treason during medieval Europe. This horrifying method of execution maximized suffering and sent a chilling message to the spectators. The process of drawing and quartering involved a couple steps. First, the criminal would be dragged through the streets, often tied to the back of a horse or a cart, while onlookers scoffed and mocked them. This public humiliation added to the psychological torment while they were dragged to their doom. Next, the condemned person would be brought to the execution site, where they would face the gallows. Unlike a typical hanging, the purpose here was not on immediate death. Instead, the individual would be hung by the neck until they were almost unconscious and then cut down while still alive. Once on the ground, the true horror would begin. The executioner would then disembowel the unconscious victim, cutting them open and then removing the internal organs. This was intended to make the accused pay for his crime heavily. The organs were then typically burned in front of the victim while they were still breathing, adding a gruesome spectacle to the already horrifying ordeal. Following the disembowelment, the victim's body would be divided into 4 quarters. The limbs would be tied to the horses or other animals, and each limb would be pulled in a different direction, effectively tearing the body apart. The resulting quarters, along with the head, were often displayed in prominent areas of the city as a warning to others who might entertain the thought of committing treason. As societal values and attitudes shifted over time, drawing and quartering was abolished as it was recognized as a brutal and inhumane punishment. Burning at the stake. Burning at the stake was a horrific and gruesome form of execution that was particularly associated with religious offenses such as heresy and witchcraft during medieval Europe. This punishment aimed not only to end the life of the condemned, but also to serve as a terrifying spectacle and a warning to others who might deviate from religious orthodoxy. It involved restraining the individuals by tying them to a stake or a pole. The condemned person would be tightly bound, often with ropes or chains, preventing any chance of escape or rescue. The stake would be erected in a public space, allowing for maximum visibility and the participation of a gathered crowd. Once the victim was secured, wood, straw, and other flammable substances would be piled around the stake and at the feet of the condemned. The fire would be ignited, enveloping the individual in flames. The intensity of the fire and the materials used could determine the speed and intensity of the suffering inflicted upon the victim. The use of burning at the stake as a form of punishment was not limited to any particular region or period. It was employed throughout medieval Europe, often during the height of religious fervor and zealotry. The accused, particularly those accused of heresy or witchcraft, were seen as threats to the established religious order and were subjected to this brutal execution method as a means of eradication and deterrence. The Iron Maiden. One of the most gruesome devices used for imprisonment and torture during medieval Europe was the Iron Maiden. This macabre contraption took the form of a human-shaped enclosure made of metal, typically iron. Its purpose was to inflict excruciating pain and suffering on the victim when they were trapped inside. The interior of the Iron Maiden was lined with spikes or sharp protrusions strategically placed to impale the person upon closure. The spikes would vary in length and thickness, ensuring a range of injuries from punctures to deep penetrations. The victim would be placed within the Iron Maiden, and once the device was shut, the spikes would pierce their body, causing severe agony. The Iron Maiden was not designed to cause an immediate death, but rather to prolong the torment and maximize the suffering endured by the victim. The spikes would impale various parts of the body, causing excruciating pain and potentially leading to severe internal injuries or infections. The enclosed nature of the device intensified the feeling of confinement and hopelessness for the person trapped inside. While the exact origins and prevalence of the Iron Maiden are debated among historians, accounts and depictions of such devices can be found in various historical sources. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe and we'll bring more videos your way. Have a good day.